All right, we're going to go live in just a second. Folks that are filing into the chat room, thank you so much for standing by. We're just going to make sure all systems are go before we actually start the live stream in earnest. Okay, looks like it's good. I can see graphics in YouTube, and we're going to start the show here. In a second. All right, here we go. All right, here we go. Well, everyone, thank you for joining us for this episode of This Week in Photo. This is going to be I always say this. I feel like I'm always saying this is going to be an interesting episode, but it always is, because I get to talk to new and exciting people that are doing stuff, generally speaking, that I wish I was doing. And tonight is no exception. These two guys that are on the show, Nate Grahek. Nate, you're backstage right now. Give me the correct pronunciation of your last name. I've been struggling with it today.
Grahek.
There you go. Thank you. So Nate Grahek is on the stage. You've heard his voice there. Easton Reynolds is also on the stage. These two guys are what I call photopreneurs. These are guys that are making money in the photography industry, but also teaching people how to make money in the photography industry and doing a bunch of other things. It's going to be really interesting to pick their brains on this. I'm doing a webinar with Easton tomorrow. That's sort of all about his initiative in the world of helping photographers generate income online without sort of going insane. And we'll talk about that a little bit as well. Nate founded a company. We're going to dive into Nate's company a little bit, because Nate and I talked, I think it's the last time we talked was a couple of years ago, and looking at his website, his company has gone from amazing to amazing times 3, and he's just doing some crazy stuff. So you guys are going to learn a lot tonight. You're going to see a lot of cool stuff. But let me bring both of these guys on. So Easton Reynolds, Nate, what is going on, guys? What's happening?
How's it going? Happy to be here.
I'm excited to do this. So this is going to be a really good show. Let's start with some quick introductions from both of you guys. You know, I did my best and probably butchered introducing who you guys are. Nate, let's start with you. Just give us the elevator pitch, the cocktail party spiel about what you do and what your business is all about.
Yeah, so about 7 years ago, I founded Sticky Albums. As a one-off, kind of one-trick pony, as a way for portrait and wedding photographers to boost their word-of-mouth referrals. And over the last 7 years, kind of grown up a little bit, learned a little bit about what it actually means to market online, and have now grown a platform at Sticky Marketing Tools to help photographers with all sorts of their online marketing.
It's sort of a soup to nuts. You know, looking through the site, it's sort of like you built a platform, like you said, you built a platform so that photographers don't have to get a gallery. They don't have to get an email list. They don't have to get a form program for landing pages. All that stuff is sort of under one neat and tidy, well-designed roof. Is that fair?
Yeah, I'll say one thing I don't do is the gallery. I don't like doing online proofing. I think that's like delivery. Mm-hmm. I like a line at I help photographers book more customers. And what's been fun, I think the biggest lesson I learned is the first tool, and we'll dig really into this tonight, is I think the first tool was good at helping generate traffic and referrals. But that, just because you have a visitor on your website doesn't mean you have a booked client yet. There's a lot that still has to happen after it. So that's why we built landing pages and sticky emails, the latest new one. So like you said, exit intent form, slide out form, just so that you can let your visiting clients get to know you a little bit before you're immediately asking for the booking.
I love it. All right, we're gonna dive into that, and I want to take more of a strategic approach to this, because we only have like 45 minutes to an hour, so I want to go metal to metal in this conversation and talk about actionable things that photographers can do and leverage both of your services and other services in order to just get things lined up and start making money. Easton Reynolds. Dude, the art of six figures, you know, you and I had a conversation a couple days ago, blew my mind, literally, which kind of led to this conversation. Give me like, just like Nate did, give me the sort of 30,000 foot view of you and the stuff that you're working on, sort of whet our appetites.
Yeah. Basically, when I started out in photography, I realized really quickly that the people that I was looking up to as far as the photographers, not all of them were actually profitable or making the kind of money that I needed to make in order to just pay my bills, you know? And I spent money, time, energy, and effort to go to those workshops or conferences and was sort of disappointed. And so fast forward several years, and we started to educate and teach and do workshops and whatnot. And I was really passionate about being able to teach from not just my experience and what works for me, but making sure that we actually, test things out and make sure that they work all across the board for photographers, no matter where they're located and their demographic and things of that sort. And so from there, that we kind of just launched the Art of Six Figures, which really only focuses on teaching photographers the business side of photography, the essentials that are needed to be able to get the word out there. And we utilize a lot of Nate's platform as well, because it plays perfectly into what we teach with direct response marketing. Is our big thing, is just putting yourself out there, but giving people upfront information that helps them in their decision making, so that they actually they begin to trust your brand, and then from there they reach out when it's time for them to actually make a purchase decision,
Yeah,
So,
and that seems like that flow. And both of you guys, feel free to jump in. That can correct me if I'm wrong. The problem that a lot of photographers have when diving into business is it's overwhelming, right? And everyone is trying to sell them a service, a product, some new gear, some lights, a camera, an email list, a gallery. Yeah, all this stuff is coming at you, and they all say that they're amazing and the best, and that you're a fool if you don't use us, right? So,
right.
And then Easton, like you and I were talking about in the interview that we did, the other fear, I call it the fear of Facebook advertising, is we know anybody in business knows the power of Facebook. You know that, gazillions of people are using it every day and are addicted to it. It's ruining lives, and it's making millionaires at the same time, right? So,
right.
So it makes it scary. So it's like, okay, I don't want to put money in there because it's going to suck my bank account dry. Let's start there. Let's start with Facebook, because Nate, even on your side, right? It starts with getting people to the site, getting people over there. Easton, I want to have you continue. So start with that. On the Facebook side, you built an amazing course that I'm going through right now. You built a course on how to wrangle that Facebook beast. Set the people that are watching and listening to this, set our minds at ease that it's not going to kill you and eat your college fund if you try to use it.
Yeah. I mean, I think what it comes down to, honestly, is that a lot of the trends in the photography industry are people saying one thing, and a lot of times they haven't even tried it themselves, right? And they hear it from someone else that it doesn't work, and so they just accept that as truth rather than actually going against the flow and figuring out, hey, wait, there's clearly a lot of people out there that are making a ton of money off of Facebook ads by booking their clients that way, right? So like, I can either do one of two things. I can either just say it doesn't work without even giving it a shot, or I can research it and go look up information. I mean, Facebook even has its own course,
Yeah.
right? And you can become certified just through Facebook. But at the end of the day, we wanted to be able to put a system out there that was going to work specifically for photographers, to be able to identify first who is the person that they're trying to reach. And so there's a lot that has to happen before we ever run an ad, in the preparation and making sure that the information that we have available on our website isn't just a bunch of photos, because we're marketing to millennials, right?
Yeah.
And then after we get all that content in place, and we give some great value to these people and give them stuff that they may not have thought about, because maybe they're getting married for the first time, and you shoot weddings, every single weekend all year, right? So you probably know some things that you could be able to give to them as advice, that would save them time or money or something like that would be valuable to them, right? So then we create that ecosystem of content, is what we call that, and then from there, then we use Nate's system with his landing pages and email sequences. And we don't want to send somebody specifically right to a website, because especially with millennials, they'll be distracted, and they'll click on something else that they weren't really interested in, and then they forget to finish the action that they clicked on the ad to go do on the site, right? So it's about then getting them, to a page that is focused, hyper focused, and only has one thing that is you're asking them to do, and that's give you an email address or something along those lines. And then
let me, Easton, and help you out. Let's flip it for a second and say, like, what are like the three most common ways we see photographers losing money?
Yeah.
I think that every small business, every photographer we talk to, the number one thing they want is more business. They want more traffic to their website. And so there's all these old tactics that are tried and true, like getting out, doing partnerships, doing other things. But there's this like allure on one hand to go say, hey, I can just give Facebook some money and they're going to give me traffic.
Yeah.
And Easton and I have seen time and time again, photographers lose hundreds and hundreds of dollars to buy T-shirts. This is your line, Easton. I love it. To buy T-shirts from Mark Zuckerberg, right? They will take your money if you're not careful. So yeah. I'm going to give my big one, Easton. You give some of your other big mistakes you see people make. Yeah. I think the first one is just promoting or boosting a post without doing any special targeting and trying to send that traffic to their website without doing any adjustment to their website.
That's guilty. I'm guilty. I'm 100% guilty of that because, I'll see a message from Facebook that says, hey, your XYZ post is performing X% better than your other post. Would you like to boost it? And you can reason. And I'm like, yeah, why not? Sure. Boom, cha-ching. And nothing happens, but money, gets removed from my account. So, Easton, what about you? What do you see? What are your top mistakes that people make?
Yeah, I think people don't know the tools that are actually right there behind the wall of the Facebook, ads manager. And so when you first of all, when you click that button, that big blue shiny button that says boost post, which should just say, give Zuckerberg money. Exactly. You actually are using your personal Facebook ads account, which is different than a business Facebook ads account. And all of us as photographers can, for free, create a business Facebook account if you just go to business.facebook.com. And you'll be able to create your own account, which will give you way more targeting options. You can target people that like chocolate chip cookies, granola bars, like it gets really crazy, right? People that like Pier 1 imports, all kinds of crazy stuff. So imagine if somebody is a bride and all of a sudden, switches their status to engaged, you can then target them. Like, wouldn't that be helpful? Yeah. But what the other mistake is that they don't use a pixel. So a lot of people aren't familiar with what a pixel is.
Yeah, tell us what a pixel is.
So it's a little tiny piece of HTML code, just like Google AdWords uses. A lot of these like ads platforms give you a little snippet of code that you can then place onto your website. And if you have like a WordPress website, you can use a plugin like Headers and Footers for free to be able to just put it on there easily if you don't know how to do it in the back end of your system. But you just basically go through and add that pixel on, and what happens is, say somebody visits your website, right? Then that pixel registers and fires and says someone visited this page, but it's not just someone. Facebook has that person's ID, right? And they know everything about them, right? They know where they live, where they're located. They know what job they may have, all these different things that they have that you're then going to be able to use to target very specifically who your actual ideal client is. So putting that pixel onto your site is, if you're running an ad without putting that pixel on your site, it's really a waste of money because you also won't be able to benefit from being able to retarget people that have visited your page with a specific message.
Now, so, can you and before we continue, I just want to remind the chat room, guys, put your questions in there. Make sure you mention This Week in Photo so that they're highlighted, and we'll get to those towards the end of the show when we do the Q&A segment. Stephen Scharf is in there right now. He's a TWIP Pro member and regular and a friend. And Stephen asked that I ask you, Nate, to finish the other 2 points that you were making. So you want to go ahead and finish those?
I think they're just other big mistakes. I think I'll just keep. It's giving Facebook a bunch of money. So I like to use there's no magic in software. It's just doing a lot of the things we used to do automatically. And sometimes the better way to understand Facebook advertising is to use old school analogies. Like, so imagine you had 100 flyers, that, let's just for argument's sake, let's say those flyers are super dope and they cost $5 a piece. And you go put those flyers at a parking lot, but there's 1,000 cars in that parking lot, but you only have 100. Are you going to put your $5 flyer on every single car? Nope.
No.
You're going to put it on, if you're targeting family photography, you're going to go put it on all the minivans. If you're targeting like high-end boudoir photography, you're going to go put it on all the BMWs and the Mercedes or whatever it is you're going to target. And that's the only way you can use paid advertising as a photographer, is if you target. And it gets complicated really quick, but I think the other way to explain retargeting, it's all happened to us. So remember this week when you were shopping for a camera lens on Amazon, and then you went to USA Today and there's an ad for that same camera lens you were shopping for? It's because you were pixeled by Amazon or wherever you were shopping for it. And then people buy ads to say, hey, do you want to come? You were interested in this thing. Do you want to come learn more about it? And that is the power. That's what it's scary on one hand, but it's so amazing on the other because it's democratizing. The power to target like that used to be reserved by the tiny few at the top. And now anybody with a Facebook account can run ads that are this targeted.
Do they work? And most of us know that, for better or for worse. I know it's, well, let me take that back. I think a lot of people don't know that you can target like that, but there's been just sort of that underlying current in the media about, the negativity about Facebook and targeting, but they speak to it from a negative standpoint, not from this is the way that small businesses can really, really make money. And it's not nefarious. So Easton, I want to talk to you a little bit about that. So take the football from Nate and talk a little bit about the retargeting and just the targeting piece of it. Because, going through your course, there's a couple of notes that I made, and one of them is you reference this thing called custom audiences and things like that. Diving a little bit deeper before we go on to the next topic on Facebook and just sort of the power of retargeting. If you could touch on that. And then secondly, the second part of the question is, does this stuff work? Right? Does it work? Because I feel like, I can target, I want to hit anyone within an income bracket of X and Y. I'm a local business, so I want them within these zip codes, and I go down and Facebook will give me an audience for that. But if I hit that audience, how do I know that they're gonna come to my website, or they're just gonna be annoyed and freaked out that I'm targeting them? What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think that there's a very specific strategy. It's like if you think about going to the grocery store, right? When you walk into the grocery store, the milk's always in the back, right? They want you to walk past everything on the way out, just in case you may, buy something or have an impulse, decision to buy, right? And so they're taking into account what we call the 80-20 rule. And that's where when someone sees an offer, only 20% of those people are actually going to just kind of jump at that, right? The other 80% are going to need a reason to be convinced as to why this is either going to save them time or money, or give them something valuable that's maybe a luxury item for, a crazy price or something like that, right? So we all search for that type of value, right? So when it comes to retargeting, that's where the power of this pixel is able to help you communicate effectively. So if you think about it in a normal real life way, if I was just meeting you right now, right? Our conversation would naturally evolve, right? I wouldn't be like, hey man, do you want to go do a wedding with me in LA next week, if it was the first time that I met and I had just heard a rumor that you were a photographer, right?
Right.
It wouldn't happen that way. And so when we as photographers, we've been taught that we need to build our websites with just a bunch of pictures and all this stuff, but the reality is that people buy you, the photographer. Your pictures lead them down the road to buying you most of the time. Now, there's exceptions to that when you have, huge multi-shooter studios and whatnot. There's not an individual, person that's the brand. It becomes more about the brand, right? And that's the difference between some small business and big business. That's a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
But basically, we have to think about it in that same sense where what can we do to introduce ourselves to them, right? And so, when people are scrolling, what can we do to cause what we call a pattern interrupt? Get them to stop scrolling, right? So that's the first piece. Once we get them to stop scrolling, then we need to have the headline be something very convincing, like how to X without X, right? Like how to lose 20 pounds without giving up bread, right? Very simple stuff, right? But it needs to make sense to the person that you're trying to target. So you have to understand, if you're trying to target families, that's not going to be beneficial to you. You need to dial that down a little bit further and figure out where are the families that you're trying to target congregating in your local area, right? Maybe there's a health club that they all go to and belong to, or maybe there's a golf club or something that they all belong to, and then maybe they have a Facebook page and they'll be able to be targetable, right? But you have to get those pieces of the puzzle in line so that you can first cause the person to stop scrolling and then have that headline be something that is actually of value to them or saves them time and money. Then when they click on that ad, they're going to go to a specific landing page, and on that page, they're going to claim whatever it is that you just offered them, okay? So let's say they click on that ad, they go to that landing page, but they got a phone call the moment that page loaded, or they got a text message or a game notification, or God knows what else these days, right? We are like, when we're on the line, there's so many things that can pull us away from what it is we were trying to do. Yeah. And so, but they meant to actually like, claim or fill out the form or watch the video or whatever it is we were trying to get them to do, read the blog post, whatever. But they forgot to do it, right? We can then, with the pixel, we can go and create a custom audience, which is, hey, Facebook, remember that pixel we installed on all of our pages? Well, would you mind doing me a favor? Everybody that visited, the landing page, but they did not visit the thank you page, I want you to resend them this new ad to remind them that they were supposed to have claimed the offer.
Wow.
Right? So
how do you do all that? See, that sounds like, I mean, it sounds amazing. It sounds like, you sit down and just sort of build out a flow chart of if thens, right? If my customer does this, then do that. If they don't do that, then this, and those sorts of things. Nate,
tomorrow I'm going to walk everybody through it on the webinar.
Right.
Show everybody in the back end of my Facebook ads and everything, so you'll get to see it all.
I love it. Yeah. So that's cool. So Nate, you want to piggyback on that?
If we go up one level to where it's slightly less complicated, we'll let Easton go into the deep step by step. And I just want to give Easton some props for a second. When I first met him, I always watched people who are being successful on my platform. And I was like, dude, you're crushing it, like running these ads and getting traffic and leads. And he was planning on teaching this and teaching the success to more people. And I've been so blown away with the attention to detail and the patience he has to take something so complex that I myself had tried to teach photographers how to do Facebook ads. And he's just blowing it out of the water. The students in his class are having ROI stories that just I'm super jealous of, frankly. It's amazing. It's so fun to see photographers kind of their light bulb turn on and then really start making meaningful revenue for the first time in their business. It's pretty cool.
Right. So because it's like, just to pause you for a second, Nick, because it's not to make this a I Love Easton show, but but it's sort of like that old adage of teach a man to fish or teach a person to fish and they'll fish forever. But the spin on it these days, like I alluded to in the beginning, is the fear of Facebook. And it's like, I know there's some amazing tasty fish in that lake, but I'm afraid if I get close to that lake, I'm going to drown or something nasty is going to come out and eat me. Easton is showing me as I go through, I haven't gone through the whole course yet, obviously, but as I go through the course, showing me that, that lake is fine. You just got to understand how to get into it. Sorry to interrupt you, Nate. Keep going.
Okay. So I think let's talk about what I love about Facebook is it's like the chocolate covered broccoli. Like it makes us all finally think about our marketing a little bit better than we used to because we're actually paying for people's attention. It finally makes us take the fact that we have somebody's attention seriously. So I have a quick question for you, Easton. What is a benchmark of cost per click? So how much when you're doing a good job, how much does it typically cost a photographer to get one click. So one person to click an ad and come to their landing page. What does that range look like for you?
Well, those are two different metrics. So the click itself and then the landing page loading are two different metrics, right? So the click itself is normally under 50 cents, right? So but the landing page load is normally like 60 to 75 cents, right?
Guys, listen to the attention to detail. Like
Yeah.
he knows every little you should be looking at. Okay, so that's crazy. That like I think I see most photographers spending upwards of $5 a click, and there's all kinds of reasons why they'd be spending that kind of money. But let's, for argument's sake, let's just say I know a lot of business owners that are happy to pay $1 a click, right? So let's just use that as so I can do some simple math because I'm bad at public math. That means that it would to get 1,000 visitors to your website, that would cost you $1,000. Okay, so we should be treating what that does, is what I love about it, is it puts a value, it puts a dollar number on the value of visitors to your website. Whether you got them on Facebook, you got them anywhere else, when you have 1,000 visitors on your website, you go, you know what? That is worth $1,000 on the most important market out there is the attention market, right? It means you got 1,000 people to visit your website. And when you think of that, now we start to change what we're putting on our websites. And Easton said it early on, it's just typically the way we've built websites in the past has been by looking at other photographers. Mm-hmm. By looking at photographers we aspire to be like, but wait, cool websites, cool galleries, huge images, slow to load because they're super high def. We're optimizing, we spent a decade of optimizing our websites to look like other photographers' websites instead of optimizing our websites to do something else, which maybe that we think like, they're not booking any, they're not booking anybody. Websites can't book people. Like nobody's going to come to your website on their first visit. And like Easton said, you got to break down this huge decision to book you into as many tiny decisions. So what can you offer them instead would be a gift of information, a free download, a free guide. Here's a free step on how to take better pictures with your smartphone. Here's a free download on how to choose a wedding photographer. Just very simple things that people will much more likely say yes to when they first visited your website or your landing page. And it's when you do that that you can actually start to get an ROI on paid advertising. But in my opinion, it's when you can finally start getting value on the existing traffic that you have. Instead of optimizing your site to look good, you're optimizing it for what's called conversion. And not conversion to a sale, but conversion to a lead. So that's my...
Easton, what's the purpose of that, right? So is it like just piggybacking on what Nate said? So the whole idea of breaking the mindset of, okay, I'm a photographer, and of course everything I do has to be beautiful. And it's like I said during our interview, this is sort of field of dreams marketing. If I just get them to my website, they're going to hire me, right? And that's been conventional logic. If I just get them to my website, a certain percentage of them, like Nate is saying, certain percentage are going to convert into purchasing my thing or hiring me, etc. But what I'm hearing Nate say is that that's not true. You need to get to know them, warm them up with some sort of giveaway or that. Do you agree with that, Easton?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's paramount because we have to understand generational buying, right? And as those generations move to, once the newest generations start to get buying power, meaning they're in their 20s or early 30s, right? They start to be real solidified in their jobs. They start to build their families. Now they start to be able to dominate or control more of how and what they buy because they are becoming the main consumers and will be the next main consumers, right? And so this is why we see hotels literally creating completely separate hotel experiences for all of their chain hotels now, right? You can go into so many different like Hiltons and it doesn't look anything like a normal hotel. It's all themed and every room is different. And so every time you stay there, your experience there is going to be different, right?
Yeah.
And this all speaks to the millennial and Generation Z mindset, right? So we have to take these types of things into account. They are very passionate about what they buy, not just being a selfish purchase, right? They want that money that they spend to go further than just buying a burger at a burger shop for themselves to like get through the day and go to the next stop, right? They actually care about the fact that the business that they're buying from also has morals and ethics. So we see this happening all over the world where companies do stupid stuff, right? And then everybody's like, yo, that's not cool. We're not buying from you anymore, right? That never really used to happen without social media because no one knew it was happening, right? Now every little thing we're made aware of. And so that also translates to our websites where we don't, the people, the potential clients of ours are not finding us on our website first. They're finding us from a past client, showing them our images or sharing them on any type of social media platform, right? And as well as ourselves being able to utilize those same platforms to be able to get that first touch. But it's actually gotten worse than it used to be. It was 7 touches. They used to say is how many times somebody would need to see a brand before they would actually, feel confident to purchase. It's actually more like 13 now. And we have to also take into account how much people are spending when they're buying from us. How much does our product cost us? Because just like anything else, like a Starbucks coffee, they can charge us $7 for, right? Because anything under $7, we actually buy on impulse almost all the time. Just like any fast food place you go to, all those meals are under $7, right? Now we've seen that most of those meals have actually gone up to $10. That is moving. Like $7 is no longer our breaking point. It's actually moved up to $10. So as we see all these changes, we can't just bury our heads in the photography groups on Facebook and post each other's greatest pictures. All right, that doesn't help you grow. And all of the people that are in my peer group, photography peer group, that make over $500,000 a year or more, and they're fine with me saying this, subpar photographers, but amazing business people. Right.
Yeah.
And that's the difference,
Yeah. And that I mean, I've heard that a million times in several different industries. I'm sure both of you guys have too. If who's going to win, or who's going to be eating ramen noodles at the end of the day versus steak? Is it the great marketer or the great photographer? Right. But then, we as artists, on the photographer side of our brains is, I want to be a great artist. I don't want to put substandard work out there. But at the same time, I want my kid to go to a good school. So how do you reconcile that? Guys, I want to switch gears. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
That was literally me. So like before I ever got into this whole business thing and teaching business and Facebook ads, I started something called the Art of the Second Shot, which is all about, pushing people beyond their normal comfort zone of whatever they normally shoot, especially on a wedding day, and seeing beyond that and maybe using a different lens or stepping back and shooting a wide angle, right? But I say all that to say that I used to really be all about creating the most epic shot I could possibly create on a wedding day, right? And I still love doing that, and I still do that, but it's not the photos that we show as much anymore. And the reason is because it's epic to me and all the photographers, and I'm going to get a ton of likes on it in all the photography groups, and I may even win an award on it in a photography competition. But none of that translates to money, right? What our clients buy from us after they've already, gone through and done the whole wedding, afterwards, when they buy their wall art and their albums and stuff like that, they're not buying those photos. They may get that photo in like a canvas, but guess what is going to be their metal huge prints? And guess what's going in their album? It's all the moments. It's all the times when we caught and captured, the way that, the bride's mom was looking at her during, the first kiss or during the ring exchange or whatever it may be, or dad seeing her for the first time or, whatever, right? Those are the things that are the eternal moments that when they see them, it reminds them and they relive that moment for a second. They don't relive a moment when they see an epic posed portrait, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's the huge shift that I had to have in my head, is that only our internal community cares about the cool shots we all take. To the client, if it has a blurry background and it has emotion in it, for the most part, it's different than what they can take on their own.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
how do you guys, Nate? How do you switch the mindset? Because Easton nailed it right there. Right. It's, we get on social media and we get that little micro endorphin rush if we get a like or a thumbs up or something on our image. By the way, like or thumbs up this video if you're watching it. But you get you get that little endorphin rush, and we sort of, I'm going to post this great picture I did of this bride. Speaking to the wedding photographer vertical, I'm gonna post this great picture. Who are you posting that picture for, Nate? Are you posting it for other photographers so they can give you an attaboy? Or are you posting it so that you can get more clients? How do you make that split in your mind?
Yeah, I'm gonna go deeper here and say that there's a bunch of places that I don't want to downplay. I think we're all creatives and we're all business people as hosts of the show and listening, and it's a really tricky combination to say that I am going to try to make a living doing something that I'm passionate about. That it's like we open ourselves up way differently doing this kind of work than we would if we just go to a traditional job, for lack of a better term, right? And it takes a lot to get your head around that, to consistently be vulnerable, to say, look, I am good enough. My art is good enough to charge this much for, et cetera, right? And I think that we all have a process of dealing with that fear and that vulnerability. But I think that on the flip side, there's a lot of places we go to hide from actually taking risks, to hide from actually putting ourselves out there and saying, look, I'm worth it. My work is worth it. My experience I'm going to create for you is worth it. It's safer to go to private Facebook groups, it's important to have those communities, but we've got to use those communities to build each other up, to then go back out and be confident, right? And I think that you've got to balance that. The other place that we hide is tinkering on our websites. We were talking earlier, one of the biggest mistakes people do is they send an ad to their website. And it's funny that this huge industry called landing page software has erupted. And it's where all businesses, if you talk to any big business owner, it's where they all make their money, because it's purpose built. It's designed to do one thing, not to necessarily look pretty, but it's designed to do one thing. And it's funny where a lot of times I think the website is like, no. Have your website over there. Just keep doing whatever it is you're doing there. like get that out of your system. It's fine to look pretty and have good galleries and do all of that and talk about what you had for breakfast. But okay, now when you're ready to make money, now build a landing page that's designed to make you money and do a specific thing instead of trying to be a jack of all trades with like 10 different photography niches and 8 different pages and all of this stuff. And just being honest with ourselves, it's okay. We all need to go places to kind of recharge and rebuild our confidence. But to put a kind of limit on it and okay, I'm ready now to go take a real risk, to really put myself out there. And when you put yourself out there in a real vulnerable way, to connect it back to what Easton's been saying about the changing market, your target market is going to resonate more and more with you just being you instead of trying to put on this facade. And stop hiding in the Facebook group, stop hiding. And it's important to work on your craft. I get it. But one way I look at it, when I first met, I was thinking about being a potter right out of college. I was going to be pottery, right?
Nice.
And I met this woman who at a fair, and she was really straight with me. She's like, well, the way I pay the bills, because I love pottery, the way I pay the bills is I have to go to these shows every weekend, all summer long. Like, sound familiar? It's like wedding photographers. But she said, I've got to make this mug with a moose cutout. I've got to make 10 of these every day because this is what clients are buying right now, is this moose mug. Over here, this amazing vase and this really creative thing, this is where I have my creative outlet. So I start the day. I know it's going to pay my mortgage. These mugs, I get those out of the way, and then I can focus on my passion. And finding, it's amazing when you find that alignment, when you get to make money doing what you love doing. It's amazing. But we've got to make sure that we're deciding what we're going to do each day with more than just our creativity with like what does the passing wind feel like doing today, and really sitting down and treating it like a business.
Yeah, but you cracked it open right there, Nate. 'Cause there's only 24 hours in a day, right? And photographers or just people in general, you have to divide that up into how much time am I going to spend on social media, how much time I'm going to spend on my business, how much time am I going to spend on my personal education, learning things about the business like Facebook, etc. And there's all these services out there. I mean, we've talked about Facebook a lot. We've got Instagram, we've got YouTube, we've got Google that we can advertise on. Easton, lay it out for us. What's the hierarchy? What's Maslow's hierarchy of advertising for for the photographer? What should I be doing first, and what should I be doing last?
Well, the first thing is it's not all about online, right? There's real people out there that we can actually go and meet. And so on organic, literally get out from behind your computer level, because I know I've been there where I'm sitting there staring at my computer like, I don't get it. My work is good. How come no one's booking me, right? It's because no one knows we exist, because we're not telling anyone in any way, right? Yeah. So the first thing that I would do is get up out of your seat, leave your freaking, studio or your house or whatever it is, and go out and find some local shops that you could maybe partner with. Like one of the first things we did was down the street from our studio, we have a bridal shop, we have a stationery shop, we have a bakery that does cakes for weddings, like all these different things, the local DJs. And so we literally walked in their front door and said, hey, I'm right down the street. Didn't know if maybe we could partner to do a blog post where you guys would give, the top 3 tips when you're a bride and you're considering, what to buy for your wedding dress, right? What are the top 3 tips for that? Because I don't know it, right? I've never actually purchased a wedding dress. My wife did, but not me, right?
Yeah.
So you have to take those types of things into account. I think that's the biggest thing, and get all of those different ducks in a row first. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes total sense. One of the other things I want to touch on is, this conversation is fascinating. We could talk for 3 hours, guys. I'm serious. We got 15 minutes left. So 15 minutes left, folks. Get your questions in there, because I'm going to switch to we're going to do the picks of the week in a second, and then we're going to dive into the Q&A. But I was talking to a buddy of mine, Trey Radcliffe, yesterday, actually. And Trey's working on this project where he's, sort of exposing, if you guys know Trey, he's always stirring the pot somehow. And he's working on exposing some things in social media, and without giving it away, but it tends to be a lot of fraud in social media, and people that spoof the number of followers they have, or spoof page views, or get an advertiser, in my world, even get an advertiser and then buy 60,000 page views and aim it at the ad that they sold them, so they could say, yeah, I sold you tickets, whatever. It's all disingenuous, and it doesn't cost that much to do. How do you guys, I know you guys, you're nodding your heads, how do you guys reconcile that with trying to do business the right way, right? I mean, this is going back to my Boy Scout military background. You want to do everything the right way. How do you do this the right way without going down those paths or getting burned by people that have gone down those paths? Nate, you want to take that one?
Sure. I think that the good news is that stuff gets revealed really quickly now. I really try not to give it a lot of energy. It really bums me out, and it blows me away and it makes me sad for the person that they took their creativity and channeled it towards something that's just they just must be so sick. And it's like sick, like to themselves about like when they finally get caught, even during it just must feel like a bummer. The reality is, you used to be able to be a con for longer, but social media is the ultimate democratizer, and a lot of that stuff gets surfaced faster than it used to.
Yeah. Easton, you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think when you get into, especially like on Instagram, using things that like will message, or I don't know if you like, I get it all the time where I just visited or liked a new person's page or followed them, and then I instantly get a direct message. Like, that's annoying, right? And we get that all the time. When you start to be intrusive with that kind of stuff, that's like a line that's being crossed, or then you like have those comments that automatically be, show up on things and stuff like that, and then you end up saying awesome to someone's mom dying or something like that, and
Yeah.
that goes down real bad,
Yeah. It's like, congratulations on your loss, right?
One
Yeah.
of the rules to go by is make sure you're doing things online that you would also do in person. Like, it all comes back to, we're still human beings. Our brains are still wired to work to connect with each other face to face and in person. And our online marketing should come from those foundations. So, for example, like, I make the analogy, when you first meet somebody, we were talking earlier about the whole reason to like give an offer is because the decision to book you is huge. It requires a lot of trust. And we all know this intuitively. If we were to buy somebody coffee and talk to them about for 20 minutes, even for 30 minutes, you most likely wouldn't end that first meeting with, "Oh, okay, cool. So you ready to book?" Like, they just asked what you did at a coffee shop. Like, they're not going to book you. So don't do that on your website, right? A more authentic way would be like, "Hey, so you're engaged. That's so cool. Like, hey, I put together this guide. I've been a wedding photographer for like 10 years. I've learned a lot. I've been to a lot of crazy weddings. So everybody says, oh, you should make a book out of your funny stories." So I finally did. And it's actually, I put on my website, it's like 7 emails that go out over the next 2 weeks. I could send it to you if you'd be cool with that. Like, somebody would like to hear that in person, which means they'd probably also like to hear that on your website.
Yeah.
I think we can act like that, act like human beings online and not creepers. And when it compared to like tricking Google or tricking Instagram links, none of that works, because all of those systems, they just continue to get better and better and better. Any trick, any sneak, it's never going to last. But if you just always acting like a good person, that stuff lasts.
Always do the right thing, like Spike Lee said, right? But what about automation, guys? So we want to automate. Most of us are in, either solopreneurship businesses where we're the one man band, or we have a couple of people that are working with us. Whether it's a husband-wife team with an assistant or virtual assistants or whatever. Yeah, I've heard automation in social media where you can program out using Hootsuite or different services like that, where you can program out tweets and emails and everything to go out automatically over time to make you seem like you're publishing all the time, but you're really not. Like, where do you guys fall on that, Easton? Is that a good thing to do, or should photographers just be omnipresent and doing it all manually?
Yeah, I think on this particular issue, I'm on the flip side of this one, is that you can't run a business and really be able to have like the life that you want to have if it's like over 6 figures, that you're going for, without being present in at least the top 3 social media marketplaces. It's just, you're going to become so irrelevant so quickly, or you're going to exhaust your local market within your small town, and no one's going to know about you. And so, like, I even struggle with it, and I utilize some of those platforms, but you still have to like put more content into it, right? And you still have to set up your titles, and you still have to, put what you want to what you want to write in the little section there, and then your little hashtags and all that, right? And then researching hashtags is probably what you want to spend most of your time doing, because and how those function on each social platform. Because, for instance, on Instagram, the people that follow you actually play a very huge part into the algorithm and who is going to actually see your post based on those people that follow your page. But on Facebook, it's almost irrelevant. And the people that, when you post on your page, Facebook shows that post to 0.01% of the people that actually like your Facebook business page, right? So knowing that, you have to then be creative in your approach, since when you post on Facebook, no one's going to see it, right? But on Instagram, if you are a photographer and most of the people that are following your Instagram are photographers, you're screwed, because now none of the people that you actually need to be seeing those photos are seeing them, which are the potential clients, right? Whereas Facebook makes it a little bit easier to not fall into that trap, because no other industry really has that problem as big as we do. We follow each other a lot because we draw inspiration from each other all the time, right? and that is a healthy aspect. But then when it comes to following each other on social media, it screws up our Instagrams.
Yeah, it's like a real estate agent only showing houses to other real estate agents, right?
Right,
Like,
right.
You know,
It's like,
yeah,
dude, I'm not buying this. I already told, dude, we work in the same office. Like,
exactly.
stop.
I don't want your house, man. I don't want your house. I got my own to sell. Last question before we move on to the picks of the week. We hear as marketers, we hear about email marketing a lot, right? We hear about social media marketing, but like I said, a lot of us are scared of it. Less so, thanks to Easton in education. But we hear the money's in the list. You got to build up an email list, in order to be successful. Nate, how do you do that? How do you build up an email list? I know you mentioned sort of giving stuff away on the website. Is it as easy as dropping a bunch, a couple $1,000s on Facebook and driving them to a page where you can capture their email list? Or how do you build a list?
It's funny, it's this chicken before the egg type of problem. I think what we've been talking about today, we review the big points, is like you've got to target on Facebook. And you've got to send them to a landing page that has a focused offer instead of your website, so that you can get an email address. In a way, we've kind of been talking about email marketing that a whole time, because you're not going to get a booking right away from a Facebook, somebody who's just visited your stuff for the first second. They're not going to book you. So you need to go for something smaller. You need to go for an email address. And the benefit of going for that is the next touch, the next 7 to 10 touches, you don't have to pay Facebook for anymore. Right. That's the beauty of email marketing. Every platform, I think there's always going to be something out there. As we've seen, there used to just be one. Now there's several. Regardless of the one that you focus on or pick, they're not going to be around forever. But email is. Email continues to be the place that we want to talk to small businesses. We want to interact with small businesses in our inbox. And so you, as a small business owner, and when next time Facebook or Instagram changes their rules, you're not trapped with no free traffic. You own your email list that way, which is incredibly valuable. If you talk to any big company, and even any medium-sized company, the most valuable asset they say they have is their email list. Wow. It's the one direct way they can talk to their past customers or their audience tomorrow without having to pay anybody anything. And there just isn't a way to do that in any other platform.
It's all about ownership. Yeah, because like you guys are saying about Mark Zuckerberg, if Mark decides tomorrow that for whatever reason your kind of business doesn't fit within Facebook's guidelines and they shutter your account, or any other service, Instagram, YouTube, etc., they turn you off because some nerd over there decided that you weren't worthy or you're not playing within the rules, then that's going to substantially affect your business. Versus if you own your customer and you have that list, you can say, all right, well, I can still talk to my people. I'm not out of business, right?
Yes.
So let's switch gears. Let's talk about the picks of the week. So this is the segment where you guys get to recommend something to the TWIP audience. Anything, as long as it is photography related. Nate, I'm going to let you go first, man. What is your pick of the week? It could be anything. It could be a tip, a technique, some gear, the new lights that I know you're using right now, whatever.
That was my first pick. I'll let you pitch those next time.
There you go.
I'm going to go with a book I read recently called Building a Story Brand. I'm a huge marketing nerd. I've read all the Seth Godin stuff. This one's by Donald Miller. It's just fantastic. It's a really actionable book. You buy the book, buildingastorybrand.com, and you also get a free online worksheet to fill out and build this worksheet while you're reading the book in a way that to clarify the words you use on your website, the words you use in all of the marketing will clarify so that the people visiting your marketing will actually understand it and take action. Really, really good book. Quick, super fast read. Good stuff.
Love it. That's cool. I think I think I have that book. I don't know if I have the audio version or the print version, but it sort of reminded me of like a politician's stump speech in some ways, where you feel like
I've heard that his audiobook is not. I've recommended this many times, and people are like, Nate, I couldn't listen to the audiobook. I think that it's I recommend reading it. It's a
Get the
super
real
fast read. And I think, yeah, get the book. You're not the only person that said the audiobook is kind of like too polished or something. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Well done. I'll order that tonight. Easton, what about you, man? What's a tip, trick, piece of gear, training that you want to recommend to the TWIP audience?
Yeah. So one thing that I've been using for quite a while now, drift.com, and it actually is a little live chat that you can install onto your website so that when people come there, if they have a question, they don't have to go to your contact page, then fill out the contact form, because none of you are actually putting your email addresses on your website, so they can't actually just directly email you, right? So it's free for like the first 500 subscriber or 500 like messages a month or something like that, which
Nice.
most of us don't, will never reach that. So
Repeat the
I've
name
never
of the
paid.
service again. Skype was editing you.
Oh, it's drift.com.
Okay, got it. Drift.com. And that's that little chat box that we're starting to see everywhere, right? Popping up in the lower right-hand corner, and you can actually reach a human. And if it doesn't, what I like about those, and tell me if Drift, I'm not familiar with Drift, but I'll check it out after this. A lot of those will, if it's after business hours or whatever, it will just put their name on an email list and then let you know so that you can respond to them in the morning and you have the lead, right? At the same time. Yeah.
There's a lot of really cool functionality within it. And some of the paid functionality is pretty cool too. It's really creepy. You can actually like see people moving their mouse around on your website pages, like in live real time. That was a little too much for me, and I was like paying for that just to be able to watch the little mouse go around. I'm like, okay, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, no, I don't know about that. I don't.
But now just the free is fine. That's all we use now because, so, say someone comes to your website and they have a question, and that's a way for you to be able to immediately answer that question for them because there's a phone app as well, and you can set the times that you're away and stuff like that if you want. Or have like an auto response set up to automatically, send them somewhere.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, drift.com. And then can I say another one?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Okay. So I have a choose your own adventure intro video on my website. So you need to go check it out. People can actually go, they don't have to leave my website. Like they don't even have to scroll down. They can get the welcome message, and then as soon as the first 30 seconds are over, buttons pop up in the video, and they can see a full wedding gallery. They can book or schedule a call or something else. I can't even remember. See my pricing, it's another video of me explaining or my wife explaining all of our pricing. Right? What we use to create that video is a software called Interactor. And you can take a bunch of different videos and put them on your website, especially if you have multiple niches that you serve. And so the first video can be like, hey guys, thanks for coming to our website. Hey, by the way, select one of these following things to learn more about that, right? And then you have your newborns and your maternity and all those different buttons, and then they can click on that, and then that takes them to a completely different part of your site so that it's only about maternity and newborn, so they don't get distracted with other stuff.
Interactor, huh?
Yep.
All right. Those really good picks. I'm going to check out both of those. Drift.com and Interactor. Very cool. All right, guys, let's dive into some listener questions from the chat room. Viewer questions, I guess it would be. The first one is from Thomas Aaron. And Thomas says, for the panelists, what sort of photography will these approaches work for other than wedding photography? What about pet photography, landscape, etc.? What do you guys think?
I think it's universal. I think a lot of these things we need to know that we can trust our photographer to handle whatever handle the wedding, I can trust them enough to take my pictures in my underwear if it's boudoir, if it's a pet session or a newborn. They want to know that they can trust you to make them feel comfortable, to make them feel safe, to show up on time, to make them look not bad, right?
Yeah.
And there just is no way to replace the need for, as humans, it takes time to build trust. It takes time to understand what it is we do. And I think that one of the things I've learned over the last couple of years is that while it's awesome that all of us get to have our own business, we all, as photographers, we everybody's unique, right? But that it creates total confusion in the market. For a consumer who's trying to hire a photographer, they just don't know. They don't have to go on, right? There's just so much they need to know If they can trust you, they need to learn about your pricing and your process and where your shoot. There's just a lot there, and that just takes time. And so because it takes time, you've got to build some kind of automation where you're using video, like Easton's saying, to communicate a lot of your messaging. And you're using something like automated email marketing where you just spread out some of the information that we used to be able to put in our websites, because people used to spend 10 minutes on a website, no problem. That just doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah.
We've got all of that information about us that we used to have and just spread it out over time so people can get to us and trust us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that it works. Yeah, it definitely works so in the course that we teach, we have different modules for all different types of niches, like newborn and maternity, boudoir, wedding. What are some others? I can't even think. Whatever the normal ones are, families, all those, but not commercial work. I think it would probably be much more difficult to do it for landscape photography because you're selling something that you have to make people much more aware that they need, right? They don't need it, right? Whereas, and there's also a difference with like wedding photography because those people need that service. And then someone that is basically in every other niche doesn't know they need that service. But with landscape photography, it's even more so. It's not consumed as much on a normal consumer level, right? Like I've never purchased landscape photography in my entire life, and neither has most of the people I know, right? So that's going to be a much more difficult. Is it possible? Sure. Can I help you with it? Absolutely not.
Yeah. Well, see, you got it.
Not
that's
my
awesome.
forte.
That's awesome. Know your strengths and play to them. I love that. I love that. All right, next question up. Actually, this is not really a question. This is more of a statement. Trevor says it was actually going relatively well until Facebook decided to throttle traffic to people's pages. So that's a good point, and that's a good sort of, you guys can maybe help clear up the fog on that, because that's how Facebook makes money, right? You build an audience and then they hold that audience hostage until you pay for advertising in order to get in front of that audience that you built. Is that fair, or how does that work? Am I describing that right? One of you guys want to jump in on that?
Yeah, I think it's definitely that we all built our businesses on a free platform that wasn't ours. And then when the person that owned it was like, oh, by the way, no. And if you want to keep using it, you're going to need to be able to pay. And almost every photographer went boo-hoo and walked away, as opposed to, wait, how much does it cost?
Yeah.
Because no one even asked that question, right? Like, I ask this all the time. If I were to give you today if I asked you for $400 today and told you that in 2 weeks I would give you $5,000 back, you would do it, right?
Every day, all day, yeah.
Right. So how much does it cost is a very important question. And what is the potential return are two questions that almost every photographer didn't ask after that. They just sort of were like, oh man, that sucks. And well, now I'm mad at Facebook and
bucks boosting a post. It was like, I didn't get anything from that. I'm out of here. Like they got scolded or they got betrayed one time and they were totally gone. Now people are finally starting to come back. As long as you're careful, it's an incredibly powerful system. When you take the steps that Easton outlines, it's incredible. I think that the other thing that's been throttled is just because it's like this is a social experiment that is Facebook, right? Like they were realizing that they were keeping people on the platform for too long, and it was wearing us out. And so they made good changes, seeing the data, seeing the trend, seeing some of the pushback, and they've now optimized it where they we don't want you to be trapped on your device all the time. We want you to come here, connect with the people and the brands that you care about most, and peace out. And that when they're taking care of the audience that way, and making sure that they're only showing ads once in a while and only showing ads that are relevant to the ones that we want to see as consumers, then it really becomes a pretty good place. And I'm not saying it's perfect. I think there's a lot of kinks and a lot of things we're still learning.
Yeah.
But it's a huge opportunity for photographers right now.
Yeah, and I think that's what Easton, you and I talked about that. I think that's what it got me riled up about all this, is that I was in that camp, that whole camp of, you know what, screw those guys. They're doing disingenuous stuff, and I don't understand it anyway. So I'm going somewhere else, or I'm just not going to look at it. I'm going to be anti-Facebook. And then the epiphany was, if you understand a thing, you know, you can use that thing to your advantage. And then looking at some of the numbers that you were showing me, Easton, and and like I told you, I have a finely tuned BS meter, and it didn't go off when you and I were talking. So a lot goes.
It comes down. Yeah, no, it comes down to we all put so much time, energy, and effort into perfecting our craft of taking the photographs, right? We learn our lighting, and we learn to pose, and we buy workshops for all that stuff, right? Well, what would we expect, right? In order to get better at taking those photographs and to produce the work that we currently produce, we had to work at it, right? It wasn't simply clicking a button that said boost post and then it not working and then we gave up, right? We didn't. None of us did that on the actual shooting side, right?
Yeah.
Why do we do it then when it comes to the business side? Like, we know, and you can't live in this world today knowing that people aren't making money off of ads, right? And on any platform, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, right? The endless platforms that are out there are just crazy. So why do we do that as photographers? I think we need a mindset switch there so that we can go, wait, okay, so everyone in the community is saying one thing. Let me see what the other side is saying. Yeah. Right. Or what is the other option, or what else could I do to maybe overcome this obstacle instead of just get to it and walk away from it?
Yeah. It's like, it's bringing it from being gambling to being a science. Right. And the way to get from being gambling to a science is through education. And the gambling side of it is scary because when you go to Vegas that Vegas wasn't built on winners, right? So that these people are here to take my money. And if you go into Facebook with that mindset, then you're going to, obviously shy away. But if you go in, you're using the Vegas analogy again. But if you go to Vegas and the rules of poker or whatever game you're playing, you got it down to a science, and that your odds of winning are better if you do X, Y, and Z. That's what you do when you go. And not that you're gaming the system, you're just knowledgeable about the system, and you have a much better chance of success versus just going there and saying, hey, here's my money, one-armed bandit, and then just feeding the beast. So next question up is from Stephen Scharf. Stephen says, when you and Easton are talking about the term website, are you referring to a standalone website or a Facebook website?
Yeah, it's definitely a standalone. So standalone website, a Facebook, well, that's not actually a website. That's a Facebook business page, right? So you have your Facebook business page that sort of represents your brand within the Facebook community. But then you absolutely should always have your own website as well. And if you're at a place where you don't have a website right now, Sticky Folios is a really great way to at least get something up and start your presence to be felt, and also be able to start collecting people's information so that you can, send them emails and talk about what you do and all that kind of stuff. As you get your full website in place,
Yeah. When we get towards the end there, Nate, I'm going to have you dive into Sticky Folios and tell us, you told us a little bit about what it's about, but I want to hear a little bit deeper about what that ecosystem that you built is. Next question up is from Gigi. Gigi says, can they explain what a pixel is in Facebook? And I think she came in a little bit late. So Easton, can you hit on that just a little bit real quickly, just to let her know what a Facebook pixel is?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's just a little snippet of HTML coding. So all those little letters and numbers, right? And you actually place that on your website, and it tracks people that come from Facebook. And when they do visit your website, Facebook knows that they've just visited that page, and it can follow them around your website, which makes your ability to retarget to them or develop custom audiences based on people that have visited certain pages be able to be utilized to its fullest.
Okay, perfect. Gigi has a follow-up question to that. She says, can anyone get a pixel, or do you have to have a large following in order to get one?
Yeah, anyone can, but I would advise you already have one, you just don't know it. So when you have a Facebook account, you automatically get a personal Facebook ads account, but you don't want to use that one. You need to go to business.facebook.com and create a business account, and that'll work way better for you. And use the pixel from that.
Perfect. See? Gold tips, I tell you. Okay. Gigi's on a roll here. Gigi says, "Can you get similar results with YouTube? And what about Instagram?"
So I'm not a YouTube ads expert at all. I have never ran an ad on YouTube. But when it comes to Instagram, we are doing a lot of testing right now because just like every social platform, we believe they all have a shelf life. And we are seeing that there's changes and there's certain people's ideal clients that are not on other channels, right? So somebody's client may be on Facebook, other people's clients may be on Instagram, and that can even be due to where they live, where they're located, what career they're in. So many different things can go into what platform they end up choosing, right? So we're doing a lot of testing and experimenting, and you can actually run your ads on Instagram through the Facebook platform, since that's they're owned by the same company, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So you can launch those ads, but the strategy and the approach we noticed was different. And so just like everything we teach, before we actually teach something, we want to make sure that not only did we figure it out and had repeated success, but we want to be able to duplicate that success through photographers from all over the place. So we're still doing testing with that. But yeah, YouTube, you can. They all have their YouTube. They all have their own ads platforms, and so you can use very similar strategies on all those platforms. But the one that I'm specifically teaching is Facebook, and I would not actually feel even comfortable educating you on those other platforms without, really doing the due diligence. So
love it. Before we continue, there's a couple more questions in here. I want to get to those, but I have a question for both of you guys. This is kind of a pointed question. Nate, maybe you can dive in first, because you're both of you guys are walking the walk. But is it possible to make a good living in photography in 2019, 2020? And when I say good living, I know obviously there's a lot of variables involved with what good is. It's subjective, but let's put a number on it. Let's say 120K, or beyond. Some people say six figures, like Easton, the art of six figures, right? I would argue beyond six figures, especially here in Silicon Valley. Six figures is like poverty line level here, right? So how is it possible to make a good living where you can buy a house, you can make your car payments, money away for a kid's college fund, buy toys? Can you do that, Nate?
Absolutely. I see it happen all the time. I think that I've made it kind of like a passion project the last several years to study, just like Easton has. He's growing like a network of people that are doing just that. And I try to surround myself with photographers who have figured it out, and study the common denominators, like so many other good books out there. Like what's the replicatable success things? Like what are the things that other people are doing that they have in common?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the first thing I've noticed, this first kind of era of very success of just say like full-time paying the bills with photography, the biggest commonality is they likely came from some other. But they learned business somewhere else, or they made it a huge priority to learn business. Mm-hmm. And I think that is that's like the first kind of indicator of whether or not somebody's going to be able to pay it. Or they go, if it's I'm just going to be a photographer and I'm going to take great pictures, I'm going to put the pictures online and people are going to buy them. I don't know anybody with that attitude that's paying the bills with their photography. They said in order to make a profit, I've got to understand my costs. I've got to understand how I'm going to price so that I can make sure I make a profit on my time, and just really treating it like a business. And that's I think the very first step.
Easton, can you piggyback on that? You mentioned earlier that within the Art of Six Figures Facebook group, there are people in there that are making multiple six figures. Are they anomalies or rounding errors, or are they the norm?
So I would say like the most that anyone's ever made off a campaign, like a single ad campaign that was run for like 3 weeks, is about $80,000, right? In new booking, money in the bank already done, right?
Yeah.
Now, most people aren't going to achieve that, and there's a couple of reasons. One, not everyone is a full-time photographer and can actually dedicate as much time as is required to be able to maintain and put together a campaign like that, right? Not all of us need to make six figures, right? Some people just need to make an extra $20,000, and that helps them to be able to pull their weight in their marriage or whatever it may be. Or maybe it's just, the vacation fund, right? Whatever success looks like to you based on what the needs are that you need to achieve, photography can absolutely do that for you. But just like Nate said, business education in this industry has suffered tremendously, and over the past, decade, I would say. And the biggest problem with it is that you can't know if somebody is actually successful or not. We all judge them based on their photographs, right? But we can't see their bank accounts. So I think that's one thing that you have to understand, is that in this industry, since there are no standards, we don't need a business license. We don't need, any of these things to actually just put a Facebook page together and then start telling people that we're a professional, right?
Yeah.
And with that being the case, we also have a lot more work that we have to do to differentiate ourselves from the crowd. So I think that between understanding how you position yourself overall on your website and the messaging in which you are communicating to people and how that is interpreted by them is also a big piece. But you can't understand what that needs to be unless you go out and learn it from someone typically that's going to be either outside this industry or come and learn it from us, because we literally are screening the educators that we bring onto our team to ensure that, number one, they actually make six figures through sound business practices only through photography. This is without education on top of that, right?
Yeah.
And I think that that's a huge differentiator, and it can kind of be like more of a safe place. Like, that these people are making multiple six figures, right? But back to your question, in the group, I would say, depending on how much time you have to dedicate to going through the material, because I'm not going to lie to you, it's a lot of work up front. But once you have the system in place, you can turn it on to get your leads and your bookings whenever you need them. So I would say the average is how much time you put in to it. But if you want to actually see real reviews from actual people, if you go to our website, there's a ton of videos from people that have made over $10,000. As well as reviews from them. And then there's people that have made, spent like $50 and made $6,000, right, in like 5 days.
I like those numbers.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's more of the norm, is that, people run a campaign, they'll spend, under $100 and they'll make several thousands of dollars from the bookings. That's probably the norm because of how much time people actually have to be able to dedicate to it, being a one-man band and probably doing all their own editing and, all that kind of stuff as well. That's probably the norm based on the fact that you have maybe a total of 20 hours dedicated to putting everything together. But if you have more time than that, like literally the sky's the limit. I mean, one of the guys that I first started working with when we first started this whole thing, 3 years ago, I worked with him one-on-one, and he went from just starting a boudoir brand and only have shot weddings before that to now his boudoir brand earns his wedding brand, and he's he could possibly hit $500,000 this year.
Wow.
Going from just around over six figures to close to $500,000. So that's what it's all about. But it all comes down to the time, energy, and effort that you want to put into it.
Yeah, and it's like learning any other tool. And the perspective I have is look at Facebook like it's a tool, or look at these online services as tools, like a new lens or a new photographic technique that you're going to learn. Put that kind of effort behind learning it, and don't just shun it. Learn it, and then make that horse run, right? So
yeah.
I'm going to take a couple more questions. We're running over just a little bit. We're like 20 minutes past the hour. Thank you guys for hanging in there. But this is great stuff. This is golden. Next question up is from Stephen Scharf. And Stephen says, please ask each panelist the top 3 actionable things a photographer can do to 1, identify, 2, solicit, and 3, recruit customers. Nate, this is a big question. You want to take this offline, or do you want to take it now?
I'll try to do a couple birds with one stone here. I think that it was another question that came in earlier too about like Maslow's hierarchy.
Yeah.
I think that what Easton's course does well is one of the last steps you do in running a Facebook ad is the actual ad itself, right? It's almost like Facebook is going to toss you some traffic, and you're going to have to catch it and make sure you're going to do something effective and productive with that traffic. And I think that is Maslow's hierarchies. We need to be, before we start sending ads, before we start doing all of these different exercises to generate traffic, we're making sure that our website's in order, like that we're ready for traffic. Meaning, will our website convert traffic into a lead? Will it convert traffic into an inquiry? And then after that, okay, great, we've got a lead. What do we do with that lead? What do we email them? What do we send them? How do we follow up so that we can turn that lead into a client? And I think it's just understanding the baby steps that people go through to make the decision to hire you and to get to know you, the more effective you're going to be. And then after that, once you're ready for traffic to come on board, same things that Easton's saying. Building partnerships locally is one of my favorite marketing strategies. Custom mobile apps for each one of your clients so they can share and promote them around with their friends. Those are all really low cost, high effective ways to bring traffic to your site.
Love it. Love it. Easton, you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, basically Nate stole my idea that I said earlier, but yeah, you have to, like, the SEO aspect of things that we really didn't touch on is also super important. So when you make those partnerships locally, have them guest blog for you, giving those top tips, and then give them a shareable link too, so that they can post that on their site, and then you get a backlink from them, right? So they're referring people to your site. And most of the time, a bridal shop is going to have a lot more traffic coming to their site than you're going to have coming to your site. And so that backlink could be very helpful as long as it's an actual follow link, which is a whole different thing, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, like go make those partnerships, but then also like get them to like partner with you to write those articles, to give more upfront value to the potential clients that you're all working towards as a common goal. If it's not weddings, like what about going and partnering with a local spa and then also a local high-end grooming place for, dogs? And now you have mommy doggy spa day and photo shoot afterwards, right? Mm-hmm. So you put this whole campaign together. Like now you're bringing the community together. You're bringing multiple businesses together. You could even run Facebook ads on all of your accounts together to promote the one common goal of getting these, people to come in and have a mommy doggy, pampering day.
Yeah, I love that. The mind is spinning. I'm going to take a couple more questions here. Gigi has another question, and Gigi says, what if you market to two demographics? For instance, I sell fine art and I teach other photographers. How should I handle marketing to both? Nate, should there be like church and state between these businesses, both on Facebook advertising and websites, or can she blend them somehow?
I'm a big fan of separating things. I think that it's a very common thing for photographers to eventually start mentoring and teaching. I think that there's some subtle kind of social proof. So when if I'm a bride and I'm shopping for a wedding photographer and I see that this photographer also is good enough to teach other photographers, that's kind of good. However, I think there's also some trade-offs. Like that means that everything you're teaching photographers about what to do, all the tricks you do, how you talk to people, how you price your stuff, all the behind the scenes, opening, like you've got to know that that a bride might be also on that marketing channel also. Mm-hmm. I think the relevant question for everybody, which is one of the big reasons why we built Sticky Folios landing pages, is it's just a really quick way. I don't think that there's one of those kind of like at best you've heard it talked about for years, like, oh yeah, you should have a website for each one of your niches. If you do weddings, families, boudoirs, landscapes, you should have a website for each. That can add up for a lot of new, just getting started, right? Yeah. And so Sticky Folios was a way to have just a simple one-page site that's like a portfolio site for each one of those niches so you can have your own domain for each one of those different specialties.
Yeah.
I think the reality is, well, on one hand, I'm like, sure, like you should have one for each. The really big boy talk is like, you know what? You should have like 2 or 3 max. Like, there's no way you're not going to be able to do all of the things in order to market all of those different niches, unless one of them is like hugely profitable. Like, get one to be up and running and spinning and generating revenue, and you're delegating and you're systematizing, then start adding the next. But I think that too often, the people that offer the most niches are, in my experience, if we're looking at the flip side of that spectrum. Earlier we're talking about the 6-figure. A lot of times, a common trend I see with people who are struggling are the ones that essentially what you're saying is, I'll do everything. Whatever it is you want me to do, I'll figure it out. I'm not an expert in any of that, but I'll do whatever it is you want me to do. And that message is speaking much louder than anything else on your site. So long way to say, if you need to have multiple brands, they should probably be on their own domain.
Yeah.
And really have a hard talk with yourself about how many businesses can you actually run.
Yeah, because there's only 24 hours in a day. So and there you got to fit sleeping and eating and just being, watching Netflix in there somewhere too. All right, we're going to wrap right up here in just a second. One more question, and then we'll wrap this up. There's just a ton of questions. Folks that are watching this, questions are still piling in. If you want to connect with these guys, we're going to talk about where you can do that in just a second. This last question, actually, it's a 2-part question. I think this is critical. It's from Trevor. Trevor says, companies actually buy email lists. It's a tangible asset. And the follow-up to that is, when you're marketing, you'll also sometimes buy access to lists, again, because it's a tangible asset. Nate, I'm going to give this to you. You're shaking your head no. I know, I agree. But tell us why you shouldn't be buying a list of 1 million names and then sending your marketing message to them.
It's illegal.
That's it. Yeah, we can just end it right there.
It's illegal, and there's ways to do it. You can rent it, but you got to really know the person. You've got to do it from a place of generosity and transparency. Like, you can, when Easton has something new that's coming out that that is just like education and awesome, and I know that my list is going to appreciate it, I will take what his words, his message, his advice, and I will send it to my list.
Yeah,
that's like an audience share, like a joint bench, all of that stuff. When it's done with transparency, totally cool. But gone are the days if somebody gets an email from you and they don't know, and you don't have record about how you got that email address, that's illegal, and you're going to piss people off, and it's not going to work.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And if you're sending across state lines, like I'm not intimate with the laws in Canada, but I know they have some pretty stringent and heavy-handed spam laws up there, and like per instance, like you get charged per instance. So if you're sending to that million people and they say, hey, you're liable to $10 per instance, you can hang it up. Your life is pretty much over at that point. All right, guys, let's wrap this up. This has been fantastic. I wish we had more time to go through this. But like I said, Easton, you and I are doing a webinar tomorrow, and we're going to dive into this stuff. I'm gonna let Nate lead us out of this. Nate, give us the sort of, not elevator pitch, but the corporate philosophy behind the stuff that you're building over there. Who's it for, and what is the suite of services that you're offering to photographers?
So with sticky marketing tools, it used to be sticky albums. Now we're just sticky because there's too many different sticky things. There's sticky folios, sticky email. I'll end with 2 quick things. One, I wanted to just give some more love to Easton. He's done some really awesome things, helping photographers put together all of these pieces. What we're doing here is called like direct response marketing. It's called funnel marketing. It's called so many different things. And I've kind of made it a passion I've seen a lot of photographers with awesome business minds like Easton's create success in their own business. And then they go, I'm going to go teach this, how to do all of these things with all of these online tools. when Easton was first getting started, he was using these really expensive, really complicated tools. And I've seen time and time again people try to take courses and learn from other photographers and online marketers and have to, they're like, okay, I'm going to do this training. I'm going to follow the steps. Now I've got to go buy some software that costs $300 a month.
A month, yeah.
And it's got like, I've got to hire somebody to teach me how to use it. Like, and so that's the direction we went with Sticky. Is there's this 80-20 principle where I believe that most photographers don't want to be marketing nerds like me. And I fully respect that. What I wanted to do is build simple tools that are built just for photographers to have to be able to experience the benefits of automation in their business. I think frankly, you really have to leverage some automation in order to grow a business by yourself. Yeah. You can't own yourself yet. So until you can, I think you need to lean on automation. And I'll end with the best first automation I recommend photographers add is a little widget on their website that offers a free email nurturing course. Like I said, how to choose a wedding photographer, how to take better pictures with your smartphone, some gift. And so we provide with Sticky Email the widgets, the slide out and the exit intent. And then the next big problem, I was like, well, I'm not just going to be another email platform out there that does that. What else can we do special for photographers? Is we have a library of pre-written email sequences by Easton's been awesome enough to write a handful of for us as well. But you can go by niche and grab one because, as we all know, it's so much easier to be an editor than an author. So you can start writing some of your own content, but you can literally get an email capture form live on your site in a matter of hours instead of months because so much of it is done for you.
I gotta put you on the spot here, and I gotta get you to come back on the show, Nate. You gotta come on we gotta do a one-on-one deep dive into this stuff and all things sticky.
I'll plant the seed. The next thing I love teaching, and I'll save it for next time, is the newest template in Sticky Folios is the online pricing guide and how photographers are using that with video messages. It's awesome. I can't wait to tell you more about it later.
All right. Well, that's our cliffhanger. You're coming on again, man. Look at that. Cool. Easton, I know you got to run, man, so sorry for keeping you late, but give us the Art of Six Figures spiel and a little bit of a foreshadowing for our webinar tomorrow.
Yeah. So the Art of Six Figures is essentially a social learning platform that we have developed where you can, visit. There's a bunch of free resources, but we're focused on the business side of photography. We're teaching photographers how to run successful businesses. We're making six figures the new normal. That's kind of our motto. And at the end of the day, what we're passionate about is setting a new bar for education overall in the industry, because like myself and my story of going to conferences and learning nothing after I was really looking forward to going and learning something. And we're trying to kind of eradicate that from the industry so that when you as a photographer are going to find great education within this industry, you'll be able to trust and know that the education that we're teaching is not stuff that only works for somebody, one person in their local demographic. It's stuff that we are testing because we do extreme beta testing. Before we launch a course, we take 25 photographers from 25 different states in the U.S. and we put them into the beta, and then they give us feedback and all that kind of stuff. And then once we feel like at least 3/4 of those people have achieved the results that we believed or told them that they could achieve, then we'll launch it publicly in that country, and then we'll go and do beta testing in Canada and Australia and Europe as well, because those markets are very different than each other. So number one, you're getting taught by people that are actually making money, multiple six figures normally, and it's all business focused education. And if you want to take baby steps and aren't ready to jump in, you can, download any of the free resources or join the free mini Facebook ads course to kind of get your feet wet on it. But I think one of the most amazing things is this month we finally hit 1,000 members for our Facebook group. So 1,000
Nice.
people have purchased our course. over the last, I would say, like 14 months. So for us, that meant the world to us, because that means that we're having an impact on those people's lives. The amount of testimonials that especially are in the group and on our website and stuff is just unbelievable to see people going from making, on average, the median income in this country is $32,000 for a photographer for the whole year, right? In the US. And people will make that in like 3 weeks sometimes. And to me, that's like, oh my God. And to them, it's like, that's a different life, like instantly, right?
Yeah.
So that's what we do. Check out theartofsixfigures.com, explore around on the site. We also have a free Facebook group that you can join. Just search for The Art of Six Figures on Facebook, and you'll be able to join that group. There's over 2,000 photographers in there, all just, talking about business stuff. So
I love it, man. Congratulations on all that you do. That's it is.
Thanks,
yeah, it's fantastic. Like I said, it's eye opening. I'm in the middle of it right now, and slapping my head every 5 minutes. So it's very cool. And if you want to, if you're watching this and you want to sign up for the webinar, either if you're watching this after we've done the webinar, you'll see the replay. But if you want to come live and ask questions like on this, just go to twip.pro/theartofsixfigures. That's twip.pro/theartofsixfigures, and that'll redirect you over to the webinar registration page, and you're locked and loaded. Cool, guys. All right, well, let's wrap this up. This is the end of the show. Nate, give us your URLs and places where people can go to stalk you.
Come join my new private group for portrait wedding photographers. We focus on marketing, so it's called the Photography Marketing Mastermind. Photography Marketing Mastermind private group on Facebook. We'll let you in, and then stickymarketingtools.com.
Awesome. And thank you so much for coming on, man. Like I said, I'm putting you on the hot seat. You're coming back on. We're going to do a one-on-one.
I can't wait.
All right. And Easton, theartofsixfigures.com. Any other place where people should go to catch up with you?
Yeah, if you want to check out my Choose Your Own Adventure video, it's at Lurey Photography, LUREY photography.com.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you both for coming on. Pleasure having you. It's been a fire hose of information. And anybody who watched this, you probably want to watch it again. You know what the URL is. You're on it now. We'll leave this up public for as long as YouTube is running. All right. And also, TWIP fans, if you want to subscribe to TWIP, also you just go to thisweekinphoto.com/subscribe. You can subscribe to this podcast or subscribe to our YouTube show, which if you're watching us on YouTube, you know where to find us there. Just click the subscribe button and hit the bell to be notified when we release new episodes. And with that, folks, it's time to take that lens cap off.